So around the same time I started getting into programming and computers and such, I started getting recommended to me videos related to these things. I started watching like certain people, and around this is around like 2022, maybe like late 2021, like early 2022. I started watching people like Mental Outlaw, Luke Smith, like those types of guys, and eventually I started learning about Linux and free and open source software, right? Anyways, it was like an entire rabbit hole that I started digging into, and it became like an autistic obsession of mine. This like free and open source software shit, and this whole like sort of ideology that surrounds free software and Linux and all these different things, right? And I've been using Linux on my main machine. I've been using Linux on my laptop, on pretty much any computer I own and use on a regular basis. It runs Linux, some flavor of Linux, right? And well, after about 3 years of being a Linux user, right, I'm pretty much completely over it. Like, I actually fucking despise this. I despise Debian, I despise Arch, I despise Gentoo, I despise all this shit, right? Like, I'm just not really a big Linux fan anymore. But like the key, I guess the underlining principle you want to take away from this is that I still hate Linux a lot less than I hate Windows when I was using it, or Mac, just on like principle and how it's designed. And ever since I started hating Linux, I noticed there's a lot of people on the internet who really don't like it. In fact, there are people who have made entire operating systems partly based on just their absolute fucking disdain and hate for Linux, or just like Unix shit in general, right? And it's not even like OS devs in particular who think they can do better, but it's also just like the users of these different alternative operating systems. Like, have you ever seen like someone who likes Plan 9 talk about Plan 9 a lot? Like, at some point, they're probably gonna talk about how much they fucking despise Linux. Like, that's half the reason they like Plan 9, or pretty much, for a lot of people, it's the big reason why they like whatever, or prefer whatever operating system, or really any specific tool of such complexity or scale of an operating system. It's that they hate everything else so much that by a process of elimination, they have to prefer the thing that sucks the least. And when it comes to things that are, large in scale and complexity, like an operating system or any other, comparable piece of software or system that people use for some function or purpose and shit like that, right? Everything really does just, like, suck inherently, right? It's only a matter of, like, how much it sucks and in what ways that it sucks. I mean, pretty much any operating system you use is gonna have a group of people constantly yelling about how much it sucks, how much it breaks all the time, how much it doesn't work, how much it crashes, or how much lack of support it has for a given task or a given application or developer or whatever the fuck, right? Because when you're designing something of that scale, right, and when you want to add some different functionality, when you want to add some different whatever the fuck, right, you have to make certain concessions or compromises in each and every single design decision, right? Each and every single decision you make about the design of whatever you're making, you're sacrificing something else at the expense of some new functionality, or this different approach to this problem, on how you accomplish this task or whatever, right? I mean, it's the reason why anything that is made to be used by like millions of different people in terms of like software or whatever, right, is going to have like serious issues when it comes to design philosophy with multiple people working on it, or when it comes to some specific approach to resource management or how it handles errors. And there's always going to be like some egotistical retard who thinks he can do better by himself or with like some capital investment or some shit, and he always ends up making something that's either worse or the exact same thing as what he was originally criticizing. And the more I end up discovering all these different issues with Linux, all these different issues with its approach to how it handles, the init process, or how they handle whatever the fuck, right? I mean, you can apply this to the Linux kernel itself, because there's people have huge criticisms of Unix philosophy as a whole, or they believe that the Linux kernel or Linux software teams in general don't follow Unix philosophy anymore, or I mean, you can take like criticism of, Linux into like a million different directions, right? But the more you break your Linux distro, the more you completely, the more you just do the most mundane things or try out new things you didn't try before. That should be very simple. They were simple on Windows, they were simple on Mac, but you try it out on Linux, and all of a sudden it's a fucking problem. All of a sudden, right? The more you do these things, the more you discover just how broken this shit is. The larger your appreciation gets for just how well this fucking macaroni painting of an operating system is able to somehow keep its glue together and not just completely fucking fold under, the slightest pressure, right? It's actually crazy how all these different people with all these different ways of writing and maintaining and implementing software are able to put all these different pieces together in such a way that makes something that actually works and is actually practical for your use case, right? That is actually pretty fucking insane to me. And, once again, this isn't like a Linux hate video, right? I'm not trying to fucking shit all over the operating system that I use and still plan to use for the foreseeable future, right? But it just seems like a lot of these people who are very new to Linux or are very new to free and open source software, or just people who are new to like certain things in software in general, seem to have this like, or even not even people who are new, but a lot of people seem to have this like ideological thinking when it comes to things that are essentially tools for making stuff or doing stuff on a computer, right? I mean, these people's ideologies when it comes to how software should be written or how it should be implemented and what language to do so in or what paradigm to do so in, or what operating system or platform to do it on and make it for, and how that platform should be designed itself, is completely driven, not even by just like, a lot of these people don't think in like terms of logic and how each and every single thing needs to apply to a certain use case, and the design decisions should be based around that specific use case. They base it off of their own individual ideology and how something should be perfectly designed in fucking La La Land. But that's just not how it works, like, pretty much 100% of the time, right? Because, I mean, I still use Windows software, like, I still prefer using FL Studios for music production compared to LMMS or any, like, other alternative free and open source DAW out there, because those suck a lot more than FL Studios, in my opinion, right? For my individual use case and how I do things, I would rather run a Windows virtual machine with FL Studios than do something in LMMS. That I actually tried that out like at 14 before I ever used FL Studios, and it was ass then. I retried it again and it's ass now. I think my hatred for Linux is only gonna grow, to be honest, and up until a point where I just completely mentally snap and I come out with a new operating system or a new distro that's like my final solution to the Linux core. Okay, let me chill. I need to fucking